Yes, mates, how's it going? My name's Lee, and welcome back to the FPL Punk YouTube channel, where we try to dominate FPL one game week at a time. So we have another international break at the end of the current game week. So I figured I may as well activate the wildcard. In this video, I'll discuss some predicted data for current wildcard team and some other players who have made the shortlist. Please subscribe to the channel down below if you are new. Anyway, let's rock and roll.
Be strong.
Well, mates, first of all, I wanted to look at some predicted data between game week 8 and game week 12, and this is the predicted clean sheet percentages for each game, and then the totals at the end. So this is from Solio. So this is one of the new one of the new models that have just come out. I haven't subscribed to it yet, so this is the free model. I like what I've kind of used so far. You can kind of go as deep into it as you want. There's a few different kind of cool tools in there that you can kind of tweak and kind of adjust depending on how you kind of view things, and it's all kind of dynamic and kind of changes on the fly, which is really cool. You can make different pathways and all this kind of stuff. There's some really good videos in there. They've got their own YouTube channel called Solio, so go and check them out. They're really good. So they predict Arsenal to have the most clean sheets over the next 5 game weeks, then Chelsea, Liverpool, Man City. There's a few that kind of stand out. Obviously, Arsenal have got that kind of historical great defense, great clean sheet record. Liverpool kind of a bit hit and miss, where they've got a relatively high percentage chance against Man United, which usually quite a feisty game, tough game. Not saying that they won't beat us, but I think we can definitely score against them. Brentford away, Villa at home, Man City away. Some of the boys down at the bottom. There's obviously Man United down there, but they've got kind of 2 tough games away from home, which is Liverpool and Spurs. There's nothing kind of standing out too much. I kind of like the look of West Ham. I think now Nuno's come in. Can he replicate what he did at Forest? Could we get maybe a Hermansen who can replicate Sells? Could we get like a Kilman that could be like a Milinkovic style player? So Wan-Bissaka's only 4.3 million. So I think there's a few different options at West Ham, particularly from a defensive point of view, that I am keen to keep my eye on there. Sunderland done really well. I don't really like looking at the newly promoted teams, but Sunderland have been good, to be fair to them. Burnley down there, Brentford down there. Brentford, it's just goals galore. Like every single game is just kind of 3-1, 4-2. Like it's a bit mad, to be honest. I'd be avoiding Brentford. Like as much as I like someone like Collins, gets the goal involvements, pretty good for me, defensive contribution point of view. Just not feeling it right now. Bournemouth are surprisingly low, considering how good Senesi's been. However, like I would take this with a little bit of pinch of salt, because they do have a really tough game in the middle there, which is Man City away. I think if you put a better fixture in there, then that figure on the end, that total increases and probably bumps them up to maybe 4th or 5th. So it can be skewed slightly by a bad fixture here and there, particularly something like Liverpool. Like if you put a good fixture instead of the Man City one there, like instead of having a 17% chance, you have a 40-50% chance. That bumps them up to over 2 clean sheets over these 5 game weeks. So you kind of got to look it over the course of a few game weeks and don't try and target here and there. I'm mainly looking at, for me, wildcard point of view, kind of like a mix between DEFCON and good defenses. So get some Arsenal, get some Chelsea, Liverpool, City, have a couple of those, and then look at the likes of the guys that have done really well so far over the first few game weeks: Anderson, Senesi, that kind of thing. But let's take a look at the shortlist of my defenders for my game week 8 wildcard. Currently, this is my defender shortlist, and it's kind of the names you'd mostly expect on here. The likes of Senesi, who's done really well from defensive contributions. Anderson, Tarkowski, done really well from defensive contributions. Van Dijk's on there. I think you have to include Liverpool defender. Price point's probably not great. I think the way I want to structure my wildcard is to maybe have only one premium defender, and then have a lot of 4.5 to 5s of players that can cover the DEFCON and give that kind of rotation ability in there as well. So I feel like you just have to consider Liverpool defenders at any point in the season. I still think Senesi is going to be really good. I don't love Anderson as much as everyone else. I just don't rate that Fulham defence. He might get your 3s and 4s and 5s every single week. I'm just not confident of a clean sheet, like in the majority of game weeks. So that bumps him down a little bit. I think Senesi's worth the 0.4 over Anderson. Tarkowski's good. I think he's always going to be good. The way David Moyes plays, like defensively resolute. Gonna pick up DEFCON. maybe score the odd goal here and there, keep clean sheets. I think they'll be fine. Dan Burns made the list as well. Been really high on Newcastle since the beginning of the season. What put me off was that initial tough game. And as much as I would have loved to have gone for some Newcastle players, I guess I got caught up in that game week 1 kind of let's get off to a good start rather than thinking about a kind of medium to long term strategy here. Whereas if I'd gone for Burn, I'd probably be slightly better off. I went triple Spurs defence in the end. I've put Shalaba on here as well. I know we got the red card recently, but he's kept 2 clean sheets, got 2 goals, 1 assist, I think. So he's got 3 goal involvements in 6 games. He does pretty well from a defensive contribution point of view. I think he averages at about 9. So he will hit them from time to time. He will keep clean sheets. I'm just not I'm not 100% sure if he is going to be first choice. I think he probably is due to the amount of injuries they've got. But he's decently, relatively relatively low owned at 7.5%. Only 5.1 million. So I think it's a good price point. Good percentage owned, and they've got some really good fixtures. Chelsea, like we saw from the predicted clean sheets a minute ago, they were 3rd or 4th or something like that. So they are up there, and they've got one of the better fixture ones coming up soon as well, where they're playing some of the newly promoted teams. And I just think they'll be solid, to be honest with you. I think anyone else on Wildcard will be at least maybe 2 or 3 Chelsea, and I think having part of that defence would be pretty good as well. Gabriel, I have to include him, but he has picked up an injury recently. 6.2 million. On the more expensive side of things, in my last video when I talked about transfer targets and stuff, I was very much Gabriel over Saliba. I think these injury doubts now might make me push me towards Saliba. I would still prefer Gabriel if both 100% fit, but this wild card here now has to set me up for kind of the medium term. So I can't take any kind of gambles on players that are potentially injured, and they do have a couple of players who can potentially play in Gabriel's position now as well. I think Timber's decent. I'm just concerned about minutes, and sure people will say, and Arsenal fans will say, like, he's fine, like he can play both sides. I still think Ben White's a good right back. Louis Skelly's still going to come in and play. Calafiori's still there, so I'd have still got options to come in and play. So not 100% sold on the idea of going for someone like Timber particularly over Saliba, who's only 0.2 million more. Timber versus Gabriel will be a closer debate because there's 0.4 million between them. But yeah, the injury does put me off a little bit, so I might move towards Saliba for the time being. But if we do get news that he is back and 100% back, I think I'd go Gabriel over Saliba, to be honest with you. And the last one is a Crystal Palace defender. It could be any of them. Really. I've gone down the middle in terms of price point, where you've got Munoz, who's the most expensive, Chris Richards, who's the cheapest, 4.5 and 5.6 million between them. I've gone for Lacroix instead, who's 5.1. Really good from a defensive contribution point of view. Don't have the greatest fixtures, Palace, but we've all seen the thing about they've kept. They've gone 18 games unbeaten, so after beating Liverpool, just gone. So I think they were fine. I think they'll be really good. I think he's solid. I think he's a really good defender. I like the way they set up. I think it suits him, and I think it suits almost defenders from a defensive contribution point of view. Get a lot of tackles, get a lot of clearances, and it's no surprise that there's 2 defenders that do well from a defensive contribution point of view from Crystal Palace in Lacroix and Chris Richards. I think both of those are really good. I think it depends how much money you've got. I think I'd probably still lean more towards Munoz, but the way the budget's kind of looking, I think I'd have to go for Lacroix or Chris Richards, and I can't quite decide which one of those I'd prefer. Do I go more budget, go Chris Richards, give me more money elsewhere to put some players in, or do I look at something else? Anyway, let's move on to some more predicted data. Looking at some more predicted data, and we're looking at some predicted goals over the next 5 game weeks between game week 8 and game week 12. And we've got the same teams up at the top, same teams at the bottom. Arsenal predicted to score about 2 goals a game over the next 5. Liverpool the same. Chelsea and Man City kind of there or thereabouts. And then there's a massive drop off between 4th and then Brighton, who's in 5th. It goes from 9.59 to 7.79. So it goes from about 2 goals a game. And then takes a massive drop down to about 1.5, 1.7 goals per game from there. So I think if you're looking at these, I'd be looking at Talisman. Brighton don't inspire me at all. Don't mind Minte. I think he's good. I think he's a solid player. Jorginho, Rutter, like could he become the one for us? Bournemouth, like there's obviously Semenyo. Scored an absolute wonder goal last night. I thought he was absolutely incredible. Class player. I brought him in a couple of weeks ago. I think if you don't have him, I'd be looking to bring him in ASAP. Crystal Palace is still going to be good. Someone like Ismail Assar, who's not on the shortlist right now, but I think could get on the shortlist before the end of the and before the deadline for game week 8. And same as the predicted clean sheets, there can be the odd game that skews the data here and there. So someone like Crystal Palace here, they're averaging 1.5, 1.6 kind of goals per game, and then they've got the Arsenal game of 0.85. I think if you put another fixture in there of like a 1.8, for instance, then it increases the amount of goals that they're going to get over the next 5 from 7.04 to about 8. So just kind of keep that in mind as well, like when you are kind of planning medium to long term, that you are looking at the bigger picture. So try not to let those individual games kind of skew the data too much. And it happens all the time when players kind of bang off and they get some like massive returns in one game. Try to look at the bigger picture and don't just isolate it on that one little game instead. Man United kind of where you expect them to be, kind of middle of the pack, 1.2, 1.3 goals per game. Just not particularly good right now. We've got Liverpool in game week 8. I think Bruno is still an option, and he's always going to be an option. I think if I went for a Man United player, I'd be looking further forward. I'd be looking at like an Mbeumo or Cunha. I think a really good value at like 8.1. That's where I'd be leaning more there instead. Bruno's still on the shortlist because I think he has to be. The fact he's on penalties and he's so talismanic for Man United that I just think he has to be. And then there's not too many that jump out. I still like West Ham from a Jared Bowen talismanic point of view. Aston Villa, I'd kind of down where you expect them to be. I'd probably put them a little bit lower. Nottingham Forest, I think, are really poor. I think they could even be lower than that. Everton really low. Brentford, Wolves, and Burnley, Sunderland, kind of teams you expect to be down there, are down there. So let's take a look at my shortlist for the midfielders. We'll take a look at a few of those, and then we'll move on to the forwards, and then finally my team for game week 8. Moving on to my midfielder shortlist, and again, like it's some of the names that you do expect, but I've tried to include a couple of players in there that don't jump out immediately. I've put Saka on there. I think it could be Eze in there instead. I'm not convinced of his role right now, so I think if we do get news that Saka is 100% back and he's going to play, like, could potentially be on penalties as well. My theory is if Gyökeres would have started poorly, he would have been on penalties, but because he has scored a few goals, I think penalties are back to Saka now, or they alternate between the two of them, kind of like how Saka and Odegaard used to do. I think it's going to be a situation like that, but I think he's that good of a player, and he's so important to the way Arsenal play on set pieces. I just think there's that many avenues of goals and points for Saka that I just can't ignore him. But Bruno on here, like I mentioned a moment ago, like this could be Mbeumo, like this could be Cunha. Bruno's probably still the main man. Probably not worth 9 million right now, but I think if he scores those 2 penalties, he's one of the highest scoring players in the game. We're not having this talk, but unfortunately he has, and it is what it is. I think there's a lot of money tied up in one player that could be distributed around, and Saka and Bruno are only 0.9 million apart here now. I bought Saka yesterday, so like it was actually only 0.8 million for me to make that move, and that just makes sense, to be honest. Like there's not a lot of value between there's not a lot of money between them, but there's so much value. There's a lot of difference in value between the two of them. I think Saka's probably the better asset. Now, I would like to go back to Bruno at some point, and maybe Bruno is the better long-term hold, but maybe chasing the upside of Saka for a few game weeks and seeing how Bruno gets on and seeing how United get on. Is it going to be, is Amarim staying? Are we making moves? It just feels a little bit up in the air and not really something that I want to be messing around with too much right now. On to Salah. I just think you have to talk about Salah. Not a massive consideration for me, but I just think you have to talk about him. Still going to score goals. He's going to come good at some point. It's only a matter of time. Maybe I'll miss the bandwagon. Like maybe it's going to be this period here now. I'm not sure, to be honest, but I just don't like what I saw from Liverpool. I don't like what I saw from Salah. Too far wide, too peripheral. I think when Isak comes in, I think he's got better link-up play, which will obviously help Salah. So we'll see what happens. Man of the moment, Semenyo. Yeah, beast. Absolute beast. One of the highest owned players in the game. Maybe only Haaland is higher owned than Semenyo. 56.1%. Huge. To take the last penalty, Kluivert did play yesterday. It could be a battle between those, whether it's Kluivert or Semenyo on penalties. It's a bit closer in my mind than it might be in other people's. Probably similar to someone like an Anthony Gordon, where is he on penalties? Is it going to be Bruno Guimaraes? Is it going to be Voltemada? Is it going to be it's going to be someone else? Like, is it even going to be Shah, who has been known to take some set pieces? So I think there's a few options there. I do really like Gordon. He's very high on the list for me. 7.4 million, 2.2% owned. So I think he offers something a little bit different. Really low ownership, potential penalties. I just like it. And if he can get back to fitness, if he can get back to form, I just think it's a solid option there. Then we've also got Reinders. No point talking about him. His ownership is really high, really good price. Plays for Man City, decent fixtures is what it is. I've put Enzo on here as well. Enzo Fernandez, 6.7 million, 14.2% owned. Playing a little bit further forward now. Cole Palmer's been out. Puts me off a little bit the fact that if Palmer does return, is Enzo going to drop back into another position, or are they going to put Palmer on one of the wings and keep Enzo in that advanced role? That's the only thing that puts me off a little bit. And I said I didn't include Salah on the shortlist, but kind of looking at the fixtures and looking at the predicted goals and everything, just made me think like why have I not got Salah on the shortlist? So he has made the shortlist for now. 6.4 million. His price is going to go up very, very soon. It'll be tonight. 5.5% owned. Good player, good fixtures. Really stepped up since Eze's left. They look really good. Crystal Palace could become a consideration for me. But let's take a look at some forwards before we look at the current wild card for game week 8. Onto the forward shortlist, and I'll blast through these just to kind of get onto the team itself. There's a lot of players that you would expect to be on here. Haaland, Gyökeres, João Pedro. I'm not a big João Pedro fan. I don't think I'll go for him, to be honest. Like I know his ownership is really high. Oh, he's actually João Pedro who's the highest owned, 62.6%. I just don't see it, mate. Like, I'm not convinced at all. I would much rather go for Jared Bowen for the same price, to be honest with you. We've got Voltemada on there as well. Potential on penalties. Looks pretty good, actually. Newcastle fixtures look pretty good going forward. And then I've had to include Calvert-Lewin just because they've got some decent short-term fixtures. And he's one of the cheaper options at 5.5 million, potentially on penalties as well. They're actually playing Spurs any moment now. He might have already kicked off, actually. Like, I'm not actually sure what time it is. So if we can get through this game, see how he gets on. A couple of decent fixtures coming up. But I think he's got Burnley and then West Ham or something like that. So he has got some decent games in there. So I've had to include him as a result of that. And I think it's nice from, if you want to target some of the more expensive boys, like if you want Haaland, Gyökeres, Isak, like if you want two of those, maybe having someone like Calvert-Lewin, who's not kind of your Mark Guer, your Obi from Man United, who's not going to do much. At least Calvert-Lewin, like when he is fit, is going to play. So I think you have to consider him. And last but not least, we've got Isak, and I just think we have to consider him because he's such a good player. Interesting to see how the dynamic goes on with the forward line. Are they gonna? I did see some rumours that they're gonna drop Salah and go for like an Isak, Verts, Ekitike, somebody else, and have something like that, and have a bit more like a dynamic kind of forward line that kind of moves around a little bit. 10.6 million just feels like a lot. I would rather go and get Gyökeres, to be honest. It's just so much money. 11.1% owned. He's still really good. Like he loses penalties when Salah's on the pitch. Like he's not going to get him off Salah. I think Isak's going to be good from when Salah goes to AFCON and probably next year, to be honest. But great option, good player. Just not for me at this moment in time. Finally, let's move on to my current draft game week 8. Right, mates, this is my current team. So we've got a little colour coding system going on where if the player's locked, yes, maybe, or no, is the colour green, orange, or red. So if it's green, they're pretty locked in for me, like whether that's the player or the team in some situations. Orange is a bit of a maybe whether I even want them at all. And red is kind of like, no, not locked in. I'm still experimenting with that position all round. So Dubravka for me is a lock-in. 4 million playing goalkeeper, absolute lock. David Raya, I think as good as he is, he's still a maybe. At 5.6 million just feels like a lot. A lot of the models suggest for Bruggen. I just don't like that option at all. I could stick with Vicario at 5 million. Who actually I really like. I could double up in the Bournemouth defence and go for someone like a Petrovic at 4.5, 4.6 million. The Sunderland goalkeeper has done really well. Not keen on that at all. So, a couple options there, but Dubravka for me is a lock. David Raya, maybe for now. Saliba is not so much a lock, but the Arsenal defence is a lock. I would much prefer Gabriel. Not much prefer. Like it's probably closer than it was last week for me. I would like an Arsenal defender. Saliba probably works better with this team in terms of kind of budgeting. But I would definitely like at least 2 Arsenal defenders, whether that's David Raya and Saliba, or Timber and Gabriel, or some combination of those to kind of make up that, because I feel like they're going to be quite heavily owned. I did consider going for Gyökeres and maybe moving some like a David Raya down, some like a Vicario, and moving some other money around to fit those 3 players in. Chalobah's still a maybe for me for now. That could be a few different options. That could go down to some like an Anderson and save that 0.6 million. It could come right down to like an Estev. Like I've still got Dan Burn on the bench, who's a maybe as well. I've got Rodon, who I'm not necessarily locked in on. I would like a 4 million defender. But I think there's a lot of value in the kind of 4.5 to 5 million. It's like, do I just get 4.5 to 5s, and then maybe like 1 premium? That's kind of what I'm toying with in my mind right now. I think Senesi at 4.9 million is probably a bit too much. I would prefer it if he was 4.7, but obviously like his price has just constantly gone up. Great for defensive contributions. Will continue to be good for them as well. At least I think. He did have an early sub last night, which I thought was a bit unusual. Like, I don't know if that was injury related or whether Iraola just thought there was a potential to go on and win the game, which they obviously did. So whether the substitution worked, it could be one of those. Just strange that he did get substituted earlier. I think he was pretty close for defensive contributions anyway. I think he was on maybe 8 or 9, even after playing 60, 70 minutes. So still great, still really good. Pretty happy with the defense. If it was to stay like this, like if I locked in tomorrow, I'd be pretty happy with kind of this setup. But interesting to see the information we get over the international break, if anything comes out, if we get any injury news. There's still some games to be played tomorrow. Like, is there any kind of suspensions, any more injury news from that could influence my decision? So I am open to like a few different things, but I quite like the structure of a premium and then looking at those defensive contribution beasts. Tijani Reinders obviously makes the team. I just think he offers so much value. And then I have gone for Saka right now as well. And I was toying between the idea of going for a Gyökeres draft or a Saka draft, or maybe even both, like I mentioned a moment ago. And that's the reason why Voltemada's kind of like a no, like in terms of being locked in. Like, it could be Saka and Voltemada, it could be Gyökeres and a kind of, how much would that be? Kind of like a 7.98 or so. So I think there's a couple options for different players that could go in that position. I think if Saka's fit and he's playing, I would very much like him. I think I might end up on the Gyökeres and kind of chasing that upside, and then looking at a cheaper goalkeeper to be able to accommodate that, and then moving some other things around to be able to accommodate that there as well. So that's kind of what I like. Semenyo's are just an absolute lock-in for me right now. Anthony Gordon is kind of like in between a maybe and like a yes locked in. I would like to see the Newcastle game today or tomorrow, kind of see how they get on, how he's playing, where he's playing, kind of more importantly, if they get a penalty, does he take it? So yeah, that's kind of like what I'm looking for in terms of that. Haaland's a lock. Jared Bowen is pretty much a lock for me, to be honest with you. 7.7 million. I think he offers just too much value to kind of pass up on that. And the only situation where Voltemada isn't kind of Voltemada or Gyökeres or someone else, it's just depending on how he looks, to be honest with you. If it looks like he's not looking particularly good, like I said, I could go for Gyökeres, I could go for a Calvert-Lewin and bring it all the way down, and then that kind of frees up maybe kind of 1.82 million, and then I could put that into either the defence or bump some like Anthony Gordon up to like a Bruno Fernandes. There's a few options that I can do, and it's quite flexible with it. But there are a few locks in here. I mean, I've never got 2, 4, 6, and then the substitute goalkeeper. So obviously things can change over the international break, and we might get more information about this or that. But you happy with how it's looking right now? Do you think I've missed anybody? Like, do you think I'm not talking about anyone or not considering anyone? Like for me, like João Pedro is just a non-starter for me. I just don't see it. Like, I owned him for a lot last season, and maybe this is me with my blinkers on from last season. Like, just because he was so bad for me last season, like I owned him for such a large part of the season, and he was just horrific every time I owned him. So is that swaying my decision making too much? Even then, like I just haven't seen enough from him, to be honest. Like, he only scored something like 4 or 5 open play goals last season. He was on penalties as well. Like, I don't know. Could be a rant for another day, but as of right now, João Pedro's quite low down on the list, to be honest with you. I would much rather have some like a Voltemada, Jared Bowen, some other players around that price point there as well. Like even going back to like a Matata, I don't mind there as well. So there's a few options. Do you think I've missed anybody? Leave a comment down below. Let's have a little chat. Right, mates, that's it for the video. So we looked at my shortlist for my wildcard options in defenders, midfielders, and forwards. Then looked at my current wildcard draft for game week 8. I'm kind of locked in on a few positions, like whether that's the actual players or the teams. I think that's what I'm trying to target and trying to look at kind of medium long-term plan. Like, we get those 5 free transfers around game week 15, I think, when AFCON starts. It might be game week 16. And then just try and focus and kind of target towards that. So that's kind of the time frame I'm looking at between now and those 5 free transfers, where I can make some more. I can make some more wholesale changes after that point. If you enjoyed today's video, don't forget to subscribe, leave a like, and drop a comment down below. Have a good day. Peace and love.